you're in the market for a fun performance car, you have a lot of options like the Civic Type R, Elantra N, Golf R, and the likes. However, there is one new car that you can seriously consider if you are looking for maximum performance for your money. Welcome everybody to the 2024 Acura Integra Type S. When you look at the front of the Integra Type S, you'll notice that you've probably seen this front fascia somewhere, and you'd be right. It shares a lot of parts with the regular Integra, like the lights, the Integra emblem on the bumper. That's all very much like the regular Integra. But I think that's where the similarities end. Everything else is turned up to 11. You can see the wide flared arches. They look so good. The bumper is way more aggressive. You've got way bigger air dams, and you've got the all-important Type S badge on the grille. It just looks so good, and especially in this black paint, it's such a sleeper. I mean, if you know, you know. That's the classic word you can use with this car, because regular driving, it just looks like a regular Integra, run-of-the-mill, daily city car. But yeah, the looks is very aggressive. It's got lots of cuts and creases. You've got hood vents on the bonnet, just like the Type R, which this car is based on underneath. What can I say? It's one of the prettier looking cars, and I wish this was the white car because it would have highlighted the details a bit more. The black car hides a bit more, but again, if you are looking for a sleeper status, the black is where it is at. You can hardly tell that this car is so fast and so fun to drive. This has the upgraded 19-inch wheels as well. So this is running on the winter setup, so it has 255 section tires. The summer section is 265, which is wider, fills the arches better, has a better stance as well. But yeah, can't complain, it looks so good. Another thing that if you notice, that makes this car stand out compared to the regular Integra are this red brake calipers. They look good and they stop just as good as they look, which is just a bonus. The side profile is regular Integra, so it has the coupe lining, and that's when you really notice the flared fenders as well. What can I say? Acura had one job to make the Integra look wilder, and I think they've pulled it off really, really well. When you come on the inside, it's got the regular Integra interior, so you don't have the one unified panel on the dash, which is common to the regular Integra as well. This does not have the racing Recaro bucket seats that the Type R has, and that's something I miss. This has much more friendly, daily usable seats, which also lends you heated seats, and this also has heated steering, which the Type R doesn't have. Now, in Canadian conditions, I think that's a very useful bonus. So if you want something much more practical, the Integra makes more sense than the Civic Type R. However, in the rear, it's the same setup as the Type R. You can only seat two people because the center space is for cup holders. There is no space or a headrest for the third passenger in the back. Being an Integra, it's still very, very practical. You have a huge boot. You can put in lots of luggage, lots of stuff to carry for your vacation, because it can take your family and the luggage and go from 0 to 100 in under 6 seconds. That's the beauty of the Integra Type S. The rear of the Type S is completely different to the Type R. The Type R has the flashy wing. This just has a small lip spoiler, which is very, very subtle. You do have lots of aggressive cuts and creases. You have a very aggressive diffuser and the very famous 3 exhaust pipes. Let me be honest, this just looks the same like the Type R, but it sounds way different. They have done some alterations to the exhaust with the resonator, so this sounds louder and it has way more pops and bangs. So that just enhances the whole experience of the driving. Speaking of driving, that's the most important part. Let's talk about that now. I'm now behind the wheel of the 2024 Acura Integra Type S. So let's get the numbers out of the way. This has a 2-liter turbocharged petrol engine, produces 320 horsepower, a 5 horsepower increment compared to the Civic Type R. This weighs about 40 kilos more, so it's about 1350, 1400 kilos. Front wheel drive, only 6-speed manual, LSDs in the front as well, so it puts the power down much better than it should. Let's see how this car drives. So slot into first and we set off, and we instantly notice that it actually sets off like pretty well. You can also hear the fruity exhaust. I'm not sure how much the mic is capturing that, but it actually drives very easy, especially if you put it into comfort mode like I have it now. The engine dies down, the exhaust dies down, the suspension becomes comfortable. There is sport plus, and individual. So I've been driving on individual where the engine, the gearbox is in sport plus, but the suspension comfort, that makes it livable. You have the engine speed. So if I put it back into Sport Plus, because we're on good tarmac now, and if I floor it, oh, wow. This car is so much fun. Like, I'm doing some crazy speeds in no time, and I've only been through one gear. It's so good. And the exhaust is much more louder in this. It just enhances the experience so much. The suspension, it's definitely softer than the Type R. It's not as stiff, and you can feel that when you're pushing it through some corners, but it's still not bad. It has more body roll. It's slightly softer, but that softness means it's just that much more usable on a daily basis. The Type R was a bit too stiff for daily purposes. If I put it down, and it has the automatic rev match which you can turn it off, and it has lots more pops and bangs, which is so nice. Honestly, it just enhances the experience by several folds. It's so fun. Honestly, I've just been driving this car around highways, cities, everything. It's been such a hoot to drive. If I floor it, oh, oh wow. And if I put it into a corner, oh, it's stiff and it wants to turn in. And I'm on winter tires. I'm not on the summer grippy Michelin PS4s. But it just drives so well. It's so grippy if I put it in down a gear. Wow, it's so nice, and the crackle is always there. It's so fun. Yes, the seats aren't as well bolstered as the Type R. You feel way more hugged in the Type R, which means you feel more in control. But this is a much more livable seat because this is electrically controlled. You have heated seats, you have heated steering, so it's a much more practical daily. I mean, if I were to buy this car, I'd probably swap in the Type R seats, and that's about it. Because otherwise, this car is almost 99% what the Type R is, with much more practicality. I don't know if you can hear the pops. It's still popping. Every time you lift off, if you want to shift up, you want to shift down, it's so nice. Look at that. Oh, and it just pulls. Oh, it's just puts the power down so beautifully well. The bonus, if you drive it sanely, if the fuel economy on the highway is really not bad. You can get 8.59 liters per 100, and in the city I've been getting about 11.5 to 11.8, but I have been driving it a bit like a hooligan, I have to admit. I could have driven this a bit more sanely, but it's very difficult to drive this sanely. I've just been enjoying this chassis, this engine, this gearbox so much. I it's just every time I get an open space, oh, look at that. Just banging through the gear. You just love it. It's so fun. I I can't say anything else. I love the Type R and I love the Type S. In conclusion, then, the 2024 Integra Type S. Well, I had high hopes because I have driven the Civic Type R, and this being mechanically the same, I had the same expectations. And to be very honest, I have not been let down. It drives absolutely spectacular. The handling, the engine, the gearbox, everything is just Perfect. It's practical, it's got room in the back, it's got a big boot, and it's got decent fuel economy if you drive it sanely. If you can drive it sanely, if being the key word, because I've been struggling to do that, because the engine, the exhaust just makes you feel so connected. You want to push this car all the time. At $58,000 Canadian for this Integra Type S, there's only one variant. There are no variants. So this is it. This or nothing. I think it's pretty fairly priced because I've heard dealers being pretty greedy with Civic Type R prices. The Type R, the MSRP is lower than this, but the suggested prices dealers are charging 15, 20K. Not for this though. There is much lower markup for this. So this in turn becomes much more value for money, for more horsepower and for much more comfort, which makes it a much more practical daily car. Maybe the one car garage if you're looking for. What can I say? I've just enjoyed my whole week driving this vehicle everywhere, in city, in highway, on the twisties. I've just fallen in love. In fact, you know what? I'm just gonna go for that one last drive.